Hi, I'm Matt Call. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to be showing my Altoids survival kit that I made. It's got some items in it just in case of an emergency situation, something small that you can keep in your bag, maybe in your truck. So if you like the video, hit subscribe. Also, give me a thumbs up, like down at the bottom. So I've got a couple of boxes here. This is one that I ordered from Amazon. It's just a little plain metal Altoid type box. Of course, I do have the actual Altoids to kind of show you they're basically the same size, pretty close to the same thickness. This one you can just order a 6-pack online. I ordered about 6 of those because I wasn't sure what all I was going to do. And this, of course, is one that I just got and emptied out myself, so you can kind of see the comparison. This one's good if you want to have kind of incognito, so you don't see exactly what it is. Some people like this because it's a little less conspicuous. This one, like I said, is pretty plain, but it doesn't say Altoids, so they know something's up with it. But let's just dig right into it. So first thing, like I said, have the metal box. I put a rubber band on the outside to keep it closed. You could also use tape if you wanted to waterproof it, maybe some electrical tape, duct tape, something like that. I just used a rubber band because I can just keep it closed like that. You can also use the rubber band just in case you needed it for something. So as you open the box, of course you can see I have a mirror. I actually have that attached to the inside of the box so it doesn't go anywhere. It's good for a signal mirror, or if you have to shave, something like that. It's handy to have. Different reasons. I also attached a strip to light matches in the top, and got a couple of needles up there also. Bring that in so you can see it. That makes it a little easier. Got a piece of metal here. You use that to patch up anything. Maybe you need to attach a couple things together. Maybe use it to hang something over a fire. So it's about 12 inches of metal. Got a ferrule rod that has a handle. Makes it easier for striking. You can hold it like that and then strike it. So it makes it a little easier because it has that little handle. I actually got this out of a knife that I had. So this is just something that, like I said, you can have in there. Any ferrule rod, but you definitely want to have a ferrule rod. I have a pencil with the eraser. You never know if you have to write a message for somebody, maybe leave a note letting them know where you went, or maybe you have to leave some directions for something or write down something important. So I put a pencil in there. This is a piece of aluminum foil. This is good if you need to try to make a fire on a wet surface. Maybe you gotta lay your equipment out and it's damp, so this is just something that you can have to light a fire, maybe cook on, have a clean surface. But you never know when you may need that in a survival situation, so it's handy to have, especially, like I said, to light a fire. Got a few safety pins in here in different sizes. These are good for hanging things up. It's also good like if you have to patch your pants, maybe you have to attach something to your belt or to your shirt, like a compass, anything like that. These can definitely come in handy. This is a fishing kit that I made into a straw. So I've got a hook, sinkers, some bait, and then of course line on the outside, and all I did was seal the ends of it up with a cigarette lighter, and then it comes in handy. It's all inclusive, so everything is enclosed, waterproof, but everything is in there. Hooks, sinkers, everything. Fishing kit, full fishing kit right there. This is some duct tape, so I put a little duct tape in there, patch up a leaky tent. Maybe you gotta patch a clothes, even a wound. You never know when you can use some duct tape in an emergency situation. Maybe you've got to attach something to a tree or to your vehicle. You never know, but duct tape comes in a million different uses, so you always want to have a little bit of duct tape around. If you can't have a whole roll, it's always good to have at least a little bit. Matches, of course, like I said, I've got the striker in the top, but I've got 4 matches in here. Ideally, you want to light a fire, this is the way to go. I also have the ferrule rod, so if you have to light it with the ferrule rod, it's good, but the matches make things a lot easier, especially if these are dry. You always want to try to keep everything dry. But I got 4 matches in there to go with the striker and the lid there. I have a small Victorian Swiss Army knife. This is a very handy thing. You know, of course I have my knife in my pocket at all times, but this is something to have in the kit because you never know. But it has a little pair of scissors right there. It also has just a regular knife, and it also has a screwdriver, and on the back side of that is a file. It'd be good, you know, if you have to sharpen a hook or, you know, even a knife or anything like that. And then in the end of it, there's a small pair of tweezers right there. Those are good, you know, if you get a splinter or anything like that, you don't want to get an infection, so it's always handy to have something like that. And then a toothpick, you know, just a lot of different uses for that other than just toothpick. You can use it for, you know, punching holes in things, or, you know, even just moving things around maybe if you're searching through a small something. So those always comes in handy. But this is something that I like to have in just about any emergency kit or survival kit that I have. I take them hunting. Swiss Army knife is a great tool to have. Of course, a compass. The better the compass, the better off you're going to be. This one's pretty good. It has water in there, so it's a floating compass. I've tested it out a couple times. You know, it works pretty well. You just want to keep it away from any type of magnets or anything. But yeah, that's a good little compass. It actually has a thing on the back of it where you can attach it to a shoelace or to a belt, something like that. So if you don't want to lose it, it's got a thing to attach it. A couple of paper clips. Anybody watch MacGyver, you know, he can do anything with a paper clip, but I got a couple of paper clips in there. Those are handy if you need to wrap something up, maybe attach things. A lot of different uses for paper clips. You know, just a piece of metal, you know, that you never know how you're going to use, but it's always handy to have a little bit of metal. You know, it can't burn or anything, so it always comes in handy to have something like that. So, yep, a couple of paper clips there. This is an old-fashioned can opener. Some people may know exactly what it is. Some people, younger people, may not have seen this, but this is a can opener. If you come across an old cabin, or maybe even just out in an urban area, you know, you have canned goods. This is something that you can pull out, open up a can. Cans are not that easy to open if you don't have the right tool. You know, of course, a knife or axe could do it, but this is something that you can keep in a small space, and you can be able to open up canned goods for survival situations. So those are great to have. I have a small candle. It's a birthday candle, but you never know. You know, that could be a signal, or, you know, just a little fire around a small area, just enough to be able to look at your equipment you've got, maybe searching an area. But candles are good if you don't have a flashlight. You know, it's always good to have something to burn. You know, this could even let you light another fire if you had to move a fire. You know, candle comes in handy. This is a very small break and glow stick. I'm not going to break it here, but yeah, it's just a little small one, probably 3-4 inches. But it came out of a lure kit that I had, but I thought it was kind of neat. So, you know, if you had to use it as a little signal light or something like that, it's just something handy to have. But it's a little break and glow stick, a little small one. These are actually pretty easy to find. You can buy them online, or you can find them at a lot of fishing and tackle stores. But yeah, just a little small break and glow stick. You got a couple of more ferrule rods, a little different. These actually have holes drilled, so you could put them on a shoelace, or you can put them on, you know, string, maybe on your hoodie or backpack. But these are little small ferrule rods, just handy to have, so you can throw in just about any bag. I actually keep these on my hunting bag, and I have them on my hunting boots on my laces. They're handy, they don't get in the way. Good little backup ferrule rod to go along with the other. And then of course I have the striker. This is a striker I have in here. It actually has, I don't know if you can see it there, but it has tape measure on each side. And it also has a scale that you can use for a map. Very hard to see on this, but you know, this is how you'd scale like 5 kilometers on a map. So it's a map scale, as well as a striker on the end. And it has a hex head here. So if you had to turn a bolt, something like that. It also could be used as a bottle opener. So a lot of little uses there. Anytime you can have a tool that has more than one use, it's always great. And this one has 2 or 3 different uses, so it's kind of handy. But yeah, this would be the striker for the ferrule rod. You can use it on the smaller ones or the larger ones. But yeah, that's your striker. This is a little multi-tool that I got a few years back. I've got a couple of these actually. has a lot of different things on it. So on this side, which is one of the reasons I included it, it has a saw right here on the side. So if you needed to cut through a little limb or something like that, it's saw. Has a knife on this side, good for cutting things. Never know how you're going to scrape something off. Bottle opener, more hex heads, a couple of different little tools there, that you can use. It's metal, so you can, use it over your fire if you had to, or it's a good little handy tool to have. It also has a little spot where you can put a string on it in case you wanted to attach it to something like your backpack or something. So handy little tool. These are like just a couple of bucks, not very much at all, and you never know how handy it'll come in sometimes. I have used them before in different situations. Comes in this little sleeve. You don't necessarily have to keep it in the sleeve. I keep it in there just so the saw blade doesn't get up against anything. Keeps me from cutting my finger reaching in there, but yeah, it's a handy little tool. I have a razor blade, same thing, I keep it covered, but it is just a regular straight razor blade. You can use that for, if you had to do some sort of first aid and needed to cut something that's very sharp. You could also use it to shave off tinder. If you have limbs where you're shaving off tinder on trying to get a fire started, pretty handy. Razor blades are always handy as a backup to your knife. Of course, you wouldn't be able to use it for anything major, but definitely for some small, tedious projects, and they're usually very, very sharp, so be careful with that. I got a little small packet of antibiotic ointment. That's good if you have a scrape, cut, just something to keep it covered so you don't get infected. Just for emergency treatment. I have a BC headache powder in there. Same thing, you never know. Get out there, a headache could be the difference between you, really being able to concentrate on survival. So just having something as a pain reliever in there. I have a BC powder, and I also have an Aleve wrapped up in a little small foil. If you do keep anything like these, antibiotic ointment or the medicine, you want to check that every few months or a year. Because they will expire, so you can't just have it in there for years and years, because medicine and antibiotic ointment, things like that, they do go bad. So you want to check that every few months, at least twice a year, I would say. Put a couple of zip ties in here, same thing. If you were having to hang up a tarp or attach some wood to help build a shelter, maybe even, like I said, your belt breaks or your button breaks, this is something good to attach your pants, maybe even a shoelace. A lot of different uses in emergency situations, so good to have. You never know, maybe splint on a finger. Zip ties are pretty handy, so I put a couple of those in there. They don't take up a lot of room. This is a little makeshift saw. I made this from a hacksaw blade. Just cut about 3-4 inches of hacksaw blade, put some electrical tape over it. So pretty good saw. Like I said, the little multi-tool thing has the saw on it, but this is just a backup to that saw, because you never know, like cutting some little small limbs to help with a fire. Makes life a little easier sometimes, so that's a little handy thing to have. Like I said, a couple of more safety pins. I did say I had a couple of sizes, a large one, and then I got a couple of smaller ones there. You never know. Like I said, those are definitely handy, and a million different uses for those. I do have 2 band-aids in the bottom. Same thing, you never know if you have a cut, scrape, any kind of little wound. You want to keep that covered when you're out in the dirt. You don't want any kind of infections or anything. If you're going to be out there for a day or two or something, this is definitely handy. A little bit of first aid. A couple of toothpicks in the bottom. Same thing, you never know. Little uses there. Even if nothing else, they could be tinder for a small start to a fire. In the box, maybe they'll be dry. But of course, you don't want anything stuck in your teeth. That could get annoying and even infected. It also helps like getting splinters out, small wounds, things like that. A lot of different uses that you can use for a wooden toothpick. So it's definitely handy to have something like that in there too. I kept a couple of those. And then I have a needle threader in the top that goes with the needles, and I have thread wrapped around my fishing kit here. I forgot to mention that, but this is fishing line on this side and thread on this side. If you had to attach a button or patch up some pants or even a tent, something like that, just a couple of needles, some thread, even if it's patching you up. If you get a cut, you could always sew it up. But it's just emergency situation. It wouldn't be something that you would use ideally, but these are just emergency type items. So that's everything I have. Nothing too fancy and elaborate. Like I said, I think the most expensive thing in there is going to be the Swiss Army knife, but even that's only like $10–12. Everything else is pretty inexpensive. It's just something as a backup to your regular emergency stuff. You just want to have a little small kit. This is mine. Everybody has different versions, but this is what I've assembled, and I've changed it here and there. And like I said, you could use the actual Altoids tin versus the generic. I just happened to have ordered some of those from Amazon, and they're about the same size, so either one would work great. Because the Altoids, a lot of times people will use the Altoid because it looks like you have some mints in your pocket, so it kind of makes it a little more inconspicuous. So that's something to think about depending on your situation. But that's what I've got. I'd love to hear for your feedback at the bottom, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my video. And if you would like and subscribe, I would definitely appreciate it. Thanks.